the Unconsumed podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Barry Boswell. Barry and I have known each other for a long, long time, and Barry has had an interesting journey through his professional career, and I wanted to talk about it today because I did want to, kind of walk away from the tech focus that we've had for the past few weeks on the podcast and talk more about science and biology, but also science and biology tie into business pretty often, as you've seen. Obviously in healthcare and sports and entertainment, they all kind of convalesce into one thing. So I'd like to talk about how biology, chemistry kind of sync up and your history and your perspective on that. But first, I've got a bone to pick with you, Barry, or not necessarily a bone, but maybe something I want to remember fondly is that one of my first, or I should say our first, tech startups was an online sports supplement distributor called Basic Nutrition Online. Do you remember this?
I do.
We were children. So when you're looking back at that, and essentially all this is we were selling wholesale supplements on a website really before GNC and Vitamin Shop were doing it well. And it went very well for a few years. But I think we had more fun with the fact that we had a business than actually the business was viable. Do you remember anything about that where you're like, this is something I learned a lot doing, or anything that pops out to you about that memory?
I remember my good friend Lee Corning came up with the logo design, and the BNO for Basic Nutrition Online had a double biceps flex circled through the O, and we were kind of kings of the gym at the time. You were the basketball Corning's Corner. You had your the biggest fan club, I think, in the gym, especially but yeah, there for a couple of years. There, Corning's Corner, you had your diehard fans, and that went over to our intramural teams that were rocking our shirts. We had an intramural team with the shirts everywhere. You had the gym rats in there wearing our shirts.
That was a fun time, man. Do you remember? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you remember? I remember you mentioned Corning's Corner, and I haven't heard that in years. It takes a special type of guy to come to a Division I college basketball game and cheer for arguably the third string point guard. I'm going to give myself like second and a half string. How about that? Just to be kind.
Well, I mean, if you go back and listen to how I introduced it, I didn't want to say that.
Right. Well, I appreciate you cut me some slack.
Since you said it, yeah. I mean, it's a special type of guy to be able to have a cheering section when you're not playing all that much. And bigger fan section than anyone else on the team.
Those were good days. They were comical days too. There was a lot of learning between then and now, and I assume there will be just as much, if not more, learning between here and some point in the future. But this brings up my next question for you is, after we finished college and we kind of went our separate ways a bit, we lived in Florida for a while, and I moved back to Chicago and, went and worked at the Board of Trade and IBM, and my career went from there. But then you decided to go a separate track, and that was right at the beginning of CrossFit. And if anyone is listening to this podcast and they haven't heard of CrossFit, it's because the cult-like following has slowed down a little bit. But initially it was so fervent that you were there before I heard anyone else talking about this. And you started one of the initial gyms, and it's running. So can you tell me about that time in your life when you were going from not necessarily sure what you want to do to picking this type of business and then taking it to what it is now? And you can rattle off any stats about how your growth has been.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to basic nutrition very quickly, just because that was probably I'd taken some marketing classes in the business. I started off business major and switched over to exercise science, but I think I learned more about marketing. Maybe guerrilla marketing, I guess, would be my first experience with that, would be our Basic Nutrition Online. And it's if you want the gym guys, you find the biggest, baddest dude in the gym and you go make him your guy. If you want to, if you want to get the basketball team, you find a guy that's popular in the basketball team, and or whatever whatever you're doing. And that's kind of what we did. We had, we sponsored an intramural team of, some pretty cool dudes that everyone knew. And then, there's Basic Nutrition's first set of customers, and then their friends all wanted to get in onto it. And I never really forgot that, going into what I do now. There's a lot of online marketing, but, a lot of offline marketing too. And Basic Nutrition, if not just for the fun of owning a business in college before, that's what a lot of people were doing. Taught me a lot of lessons that I use now.
Yeah. What's really wild about that is I think there's a major difference because there's so much digital marketing going on right now, and it's so easy to just robot emails and robot commercials and pay for ad space, that when something leaves the screen and you see it in real life, there's a whole new dynamic to the power of that marketing. So yeah, I definitely learned that too. It's just, if you're not a regional business, it's hard to scale that, right? It can get very expensive, but if it can be done well, it's very powerful.
Translate that into what I do now. I guess you could call CrossFit gyms like boutique style specialty niche gyms. It's not your big box model of LA Fitness or Planet Fitness or Gold's Gym or anything like that. It's going to be a much different business model, but everything has a circle. And you kind of talked about being there in the very beginning of CrossFit where it was just like cultish, and then the people that were in like doing it was kind of like Fight Club. You had to like find out about it, and there was not much marketing at all other than the people that were doing it. They were in these warehouses that didn't have signs. You kind of had to know about or find it. And they've tried to
replay that to this day, right? Like I go outside of town and I see a back garage somewhere. They're still trying to catch that old model, right?
They are in a lot of warehouses still. Mine is in a warehouse, but there's a lot of them you'll see there's a Subway, there's a nail salon, there's a CrossFit, it's in a storefront with a low drop ceiling. Kind of really depends on the real estate available in the area. Some places have more warehouse space available and near residential areas, and other places don't, so they have to go. And then that's can be much more of a pain for music and dropping weights and all the things that go along with CrossFit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you feel like that's hurt the model though, to have those, and I'm focusing on the marketing piece. When you're looking at a business like that and you say, yeah, it was this cult-like following, it was like Fight Club, and there's a certain feel that comes with that. And then to put it next to the Subway and the nail salon, do you think that damages the brand at all, or is it still just it's through and through pure?
I would say I wouldn't call it damage the brand, because it's more exposure to methodology is going to get more people in shape. I could talk about the methodology and kind of how it is for the whole time we're on here, but really there's enough people to go around for all different kinds of styles of gym, right? You could have your CrossFit that's focused on postpartum mothers or just middle-aged women. You could have a CrossFit that's totally focused on law enforcement, military, police. You could have a CrossFit that, they might happen to be, I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida, but I got a bunch of buddies in Orlando that own gyms, and they're right in the heart by like UCF and different colleges like that. And they're probably 80% students, that kind of gym. So because the model doesn't require thousands and thousands of members, you can run a highly profitable, very successful gym with anywhere from 150 to 500 members. 500 for a CrossFit would be really huge. Okay. And there's enough people to go around. So if you wanted to be a part of a Fight Club CrossFit where, it's still kind of dingy and dirty and it's just beats you up and the workouts are super hard and intense and, it's all just meatheads in there, you can find that. And then 5 minutes down the road, you can find the 30-minute classes designed for, not as intense, ladies or guys, for that matter, doesn't really matter.
Right.
But, there's enough people to go around essentially in these little micro communities that are part of the bigger CrossFit community. They're still doing CrossFit and they're giving everybody what they want. So kind of some of the, I guess, the negative press on CrossFit. Like if you think CrossFit doesn't work, if you think CrossFit is just doing box jumps and it's all cardio and you won't get strong or anything like that doing CrossFit, that really in 2018 just shows ignorance, because it's not that. It just means you never tried it or you didn't really know. Maybe if that's what you thought in 2012 or 2013 when it was still kind of new and fresh and young, but now, it's a very efficient way to get in great shape. You can do it if you're 15, you can do it if you're 60. So I would say it didn't damage the brand. It's just the brand is so diverse now as far as people, but anyone can do it, and you can find anywhere on the spectrum you want to go. Right. Bigger cities have hundreds of CrossFits now. Smaller cities, 10, 15, maybe just one if you're in a really small place. But, bigger cities, there's quite a few options to choose from.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the brand has been damaged at all. I'm just thinking like if there was that picture of what you thought CrossFit was originally, and then you start seeing them in different places, I'm wondering if they maybe not necessarily damaged, but detract at all. And I don't know if there's anyone watching this that hasn't or doesn't think that CrossFit is effective, because man, if you've ever done one of those workouts, it'll either make you get addicted to working out or never want to work out again. And I have had a really hard time trying to dial up the desire to really work out very hard after a collegiate athletics career, right? And a lot of time when I bump into other athletes or former athletes, I'm definitely a former athlete, they voice something similar. Do you have any, and I'm circumventing your story here, which is what I'm really interested in, but do you have any things that you kind of relay to those types of people that maybe don't necessarily have or they don't think they have the desire to work out anymore? They just want the result without the effort.
So, I would say maybe we do there's definitely a couple different kinds of people that come in. There's the kind of people that come in that because they're looking for the next hardest, best workout that's going to give them the best results, and they want to work out. They're here. Maybe the other kind of person is, someone told me about this CrossFit thing. I should check it out. I'm not really in great shape. I'm not getting any results by myself going to Planet Fitness or LA Fitness, or I'm bored, or I don't know what to do on my own. Right. But then there's definitely the people that are there, maybe similar to kind of how I've heard you just talk about working out. It's like, I really don't want to do this, but I've heard CrossFit is like the best way to get in shape quickly. So they kind of is their medicine. So I can come here 3 days a week for 1 hour at a time. I can show up a couple minutes early. I can be gone in an hour. I can get my butt whooped, and I don't have to worry about, maybe getting heart disease, or maybe I can not, get diabetes because I'm not going to keep gaining 5 pounds per year. Maybe I lose a little weight, maybe I don't, but I'm going to be around to see my kids graduate and get married, and I'm going to be there. So in that sense, we do have people like that enjoy the group aspect, the camaraderie. Some people say, "Oh, I hate you. I hate this place. I'll see you tomorrow." It's kind of like because they love coming, but I think there's a lot of people that really hate the workout, and they're just there because they don't want to get sick, get fat, die early, not be there for their kids. But for the most part, it's usually a good mix. There's people that really want to be there. There's people that, actually, there's not really many people that kind of want to be there. They either want to be there or they don't. Just
right. Yeah, I think it's you mentioned something really interesting there about the camaraderie of a forum like that, because one thing that athletes miss, post-college sports is I don't have a team anymore. And it's really difficult to translate that non-physical or that physical activity to something non-physical like work. Or like, if you're, they say athletes will do well in sales, and I'm in sales. So like, I mean, kind of, but it's not like a physical activity with a group of people that you want to be around to something kind of like that afterwards. And I think that's one of the biggest draws in my mind to CrossFit. And oh, by the way, you will get in shape.
I don't know very many people that like doing CrossFit on their own. The people that do CrossFit on their own, or if like the schedule conflicts and they do something while traveling or on the road, that's me. I personally, I work out with my classes at my gym. I do the gym programmed workouts. I don't do anything extra crazy on my own in the middle of the day, because at the end of the day, I think our workouts are really, really awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'm there. And the reason I love it is because of all the other people there. We're all doing it together, and it makes it fun. It makes it a good experience. Part of the reason why I switched over, to CrossFit, or fell in love with it really the first time that I did it, was the intensity of the workout. But after that initial thing, it was like, in college you went and you talked to everyone at the gym because, like we talked about earlier. But like after college, you go to Gold's or LA Fitness or whatnot. If you don't bring a workout buddy, man, people got their headphones in, their hoods on, they're not looking at you. And if they are, it's kind of like a judgy, maybe condescending way, or like comparing. You can work out next to the same person for a year and never talk to them. Anyone that works for me in my gym knows that if someone, when someone walks in the door, member or not, they should be greeted within 30 seconds. If someone's new, my people are going up and saying, "Hey, what's up?" That's just kind of the environment that we've cultivated at my facility. Not every facility does that. Some are more standoffish, but that's why I love it. And that's why most of the people there love it. So it's like, yeah, maybe I really don't want to work out this hard if it was left up to me on my own, but I'm going to come here, and I know that everyone else wants to work out and everyone else is trying to make themselves better. So let's do this thing, man. Let's do it. And it's that team atmosphere that you were kind of talking about missing after, the sports career is over.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we're going to do this. We have a motto in our gym, kind of, it's basically no one's done till everyone's done. So if we have a workout and it's 3 rounds for time of something with maybe a 15-minute time cap after we do the first part, no one's going to be cleaning up their equipment or leaving until either everyone's finished or that time cap hits. And, it's not like a super cheer gym, like, yeah, let's go. Not like that, but it's like, right. You're going to get encouragement. You're going to get, hey man, come on, finish up, finish strong, and you're not going to be like face deep in burpees wanting to die. And you're going to see someone who just smoked the workout driving off in the parking lot because they finished 10 minutes before you.
Yeah, that would keep me from coming back, because I would be knee deep in the half push-up, half jumping jack torture chamber that is a burpee. But, you mentioned a couple of things there that pop out to me. So you said people get greeted within 30 seconds. And there's some cultural norms that you've created that have made the gym be successful. And they sound a lot like things that you hear from the hospitality industry. Have you taken any cues from that, or is this just something that's natural to how Barry runs his facility?
One of my mentors and business coaches spent about, I think it was like 10 or 12 years working at the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
And, a lot of what we do in the CrossFit space, as far as like procedure and how we treat our people and all that, it doesn't just be, you're walking into a hotel or you walking into a gym. They say the thing people like to hear the most is the sound of their own name. So we're going to learn your name. We're going to know how to spell it on the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. We're going to reference you by your name before and after, because that's what people like to hear. We're going to say hi to you. A lot of people go to jobs they hate where people don't say hello to them unless they need something or
right.
in trouble or something, so we're going to say hello to you right away. Our goal is to make your day or your time in our gym the best hour of your day. And, we have quite a few things in place to ensure that and to try and help that. And it doesn't come off as fake because the people that I have, that are part of my team, they are bought in and they believe in what we're doing.
Because it's not fake, right?
So it's not fake.
Right.
There's a long hiring process to kind of come in and work. For me, I'd rather do it myself than have it done wrong or incorrectly or fake. It's really, caring about people. And yeah, back to your question. It does. A lot of it is taken, it's in part, a lot of, that kind of policy or how we run things when it comes to interpersonal relationships is taken from the hospitality industry.
Interesting. So I hadn't heard that from you. So there was some parallels there and you explained it very well. I think one thing that just hits me there is when you say not fake, the word that comes to my mind is authenticity. And then when people hear their names and the things that people like to hear and when they're walking into the gym are associated with respect. So if they're being respected and it feels authentic or even better, it is authentic, that is what creates camaraderie in the first place. And this is the same in any basketball team, any sales team, any CrossFit gym, any if you want to extrapolate the term out, any tribe at all. So I think that's really well. And so I hate to have taken you so off track on my diatribe around the hospitality organization, but take me back to the beginning when, you and I finished college at the same time. We kind of spend a year figuring things out, and then you get this idea to start a CrossFit gym. How did you come to that decision? What were the precursors? And then how did you get started?
I guess as long as I can remember, I've had two different pieces of advice that have stuck with me. Mm-hmm. Two completely opposite things.
Okay.
One was from my dad, who said, he, I guess, read this book at one point in time. It said, do what you love and the money will follow. And my grandpa told me, you can learn to love anything, pick something that pays well. So I have grandpa telling me one thing, I've got my dad telling me the other. And kind of to go back to the word you used there towards the end of the last little discussion, authenticity, and what this even goes back to the conversation we had before about the different kinds of CrossFit gyms, is being true to yourself and your authentic brand. Mm-hmm. Your vibe attracts your tribe and all that kind of thing. So
I like that.
Being authentic in what you're trying to do and who you are, you're going to attract people that you want to be around. You're going to bring in people that are like-minded, that are going to, buy into your system. Right. They're going to want to be there, versus if you're being fake just to try and maybe if your passion isn't postpartum, mothers or middle-aged women or older clientele, which is like a big thing now.
Right.
Trying to get the older clients into your CrossFit space. If that's not your passion, they're going to be able to tell it right away. And right. If you're not being authentic, CrossFit at a dialed back intensity for an older population, there might be a big market for that. But in my business, if you're not truly passionate about that, it's not going to be the best hour of their day. It's going to be not the best hour of your day. And you're not going to be, kind of authentic and speaking to them where they are. So
it's going to be work and a hard one. It's going
to be work. Exactly. Yeah. And they don't want to see that. So back to the two pieces of advice, I always chose to do, what I loved, and I didn't really worry about getting paid or what, that wasn't the main focus. It was just living every day and doing what I loved and pursuing those. So I got a phone call. I was doing an internship for a corporate wellness company up in DC. Hadn't heard of CrossFit, didn't know what it was. And I got a phone call from a childhood friend that was kind of telling me, hey, I'm starting this CrossFit gym this summer. I heard you're looking for an internship.
Right.
You know, are you interested in helping me start this thing up? You could do it for that. I'm like, well, I actually have an internship. I'm up here in DC doing it now, but, you know, what is this thing you're doing? He's like, well, here's this workout. Try this workout. It's so-and-so. And time yourself, do it as fast as you can. I'm like, all right, cool. And he told me what it was. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound like all that much. And, maybe I'll do that as a warm up or something, but I normally work out for 2 hours. I'll be good. He goes, yeah, I hear you. He's like, my business partner I'm starting the gym with does this workout in 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Do it. Let me know how long it took you. Long story short, it took me 11 minutes and 1 second to complete the workout. And I don't think I moved for like 30 minutes. I was contemplating life at the time. Like, how do I work out so much and can be in apparently such bad shape?
Right.
So that was my exposure to CrossFit, and I immediately fell in love with it. I've done CrossFit 6 out of 7 days.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be 10 years now, right?
It was February 14th, 2008 that I started CrossFit. So yeah, we just hit 10 years. Yeah.
Good for you, man.
At the time I was kind of thinking to myself, like, man, maybe I should have, it's funny. I was finishing up college and I had doing the internship. Some things happened with the internship. I ended up having to go back for a 4.5-year semester. It turned out to be the best semester of my entire college experience. I'm really glad it happened and that the internship screwed some things up. But I was thinking, like, man, maybe I should have listened to grandpa. Maybe I shouldn't have listened to dad. Maybe, you know, I should have picked something else.
Right.
And the day that I did that, this was way back, you know, what do I say, 2008. This was way before any ESPN CrossFit games, CrossFit Reebok on TV, Nike, anything. It was long time, but then it was like
subculture at the time. Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I have to be a personal trainer the rest of my life, I think I'm just going to go back to school. I'm like not wanting to do this. And then I did that one workout and it changed the whole thing because it's like, all right, this is what it is. And then I could see that there was like gyms, like a few gyms popping up and people were doing it together. I'm like, man, that'd be really cool. It'd be like we were saying, like a team. That'd be kind of like basketball practice or soccer practice or like playing, you know, doing that and it's competitive and all that. So I didn't know right then that I wanted to open a CrossFit in Daytona Beach, but in high school, I kicked my mom's car out of the garage, and instead of getting a new PlayStation, I bought weight sets and whatnot back before CrossFit or anything. And after school, I had, you know, guys and girls, about anywhere from 5 to 10 people after school every day in there, like clanging and banging. And take that into
for working out.
Yep.
Noted.
You know, college, same thing. I spent, you know,
right.
most of free time at the student center, like lifting weights, playing basketball, like I guess you say just being authentic to tie it back into what we were talking about. And then, you know, I worked at another gym for a little while, about a year, and had an opportunity to end up opening my own.
A little bit of learning.
Do what?
A little bit of like pre-learning before you were able to, you know, go hop into it for yourself.
It actually was that way, but it didn't turn out that way. After I left, after I slept on your couch for 4 months. I
totally forgot about that.
After I slept on your couch for 4 months in Chicago, after the Jacksonville thing, we could spend a whole nother podcast on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll summarize it if I'm remembering this right. So like there are these two pieces of advice in your mind, and I'm going a direction that I enjoy and love. I'm working at IBM at the time, but those first jobs in tech are really a beating. I remember those times, not so good. But it's you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you see people in your space that are enjoying what they do. But if you can hang on and you can be successful in the meantime, then you can, in theory, go and do that. But then, you know, you were kind of seeing this a little bit and saying, okay, I could do that. And I was more than happy to try to get you into it. But then it was just beaten by your love for fitness and all of the stuff that CrossFit kind of offered. And I remember Yeah. Okay. I remember you leaving and being like, I'm going to go start a CrossFit gym. And I was like, that's what you should be doing, I guess. Right.
Yeah, I didn't mention that before. Like before I went and worked at a different place, I had $5,000 in my bank account saved up, and I thought that I was going to move to Tampa, a city I'd never been to, that I didn't even know a single person in, and with $5,000 I was going to open a CrossFit gym. And I got in my car with everything that I owned, and I drove down there, and first thing I did was drive straight to the beach because that's what I told you I was going to do. I spent the night in like a little $29 not so nice motel, and
that won't even get you a Motel 6, man.
Oh no, this is not Motel 6. This is like Motel 1.2. I mean, this was bad. And then from there, had a couple things happen in life that you can't really control. A week, I think, no, it was in Chicago that kind of stuff happened with Brad and Woody, but yeah, it just didn't work out. Some things didn't work out down there, and I ended up in Daytona working at another gym, had that opportunity, and then after about a year, almost to the day, I think, no, a little less than a year, probably like 11 months, we opened up CrossFit Die Hard. That was 6 years and about 3 months ago. We just had our 6-year anniversary on March 5th. So March 6 years. But yeah, man, I $5,000 in the bank and a dream, and it didn't work out right away, but it did work out. So
there's a common strand I find in this podcast when I'm talking to guys that have gone out and started their own thing or kind of blazed their own trails. And there's always that I loaded everything in my car story and I went somewhere where I thought I could get a handle on that thing. And you're no different. So you've been in Daytona for 6 years, and what's membership like now? And can you tell us, like, because we're going to try to wrap some business into this because it's nice and linear. You've got one location. How many members do you have?
All programs told about 170 right now.
Okay. And so what's you don't have to say your admission cost, but what's an average cost to go to a CrossFit gym?
Really, that's going to depend on your city. If you're in where we were in Chicago, if you wanted unlimited training month to month, it could have been anywhere from like $250 to $300 a month. If you signed anywhere from like a 6 to 12 month agreement, you might get it down to like $250, $220.
Okay.
You go here, we're month to month is 170 for 3 times a week and 200 for month or unlimited. 3 month commitment, it's 170 a month for unlimited and 145 a month for 3 times a week. And,
okay.
There's places in town that are lower. There's no one higher. We're the highest. And as long as I believe we provide the best service, we always will be. A lot of the competition has gone and tried to like price like $10 under me, and it doesn't really,
Yeah, well, that's the thing that you're talking about, the authenticity and the respect that leads to camaraderie and the vibe tribe. Yeah, that's worth $10. I'd pay 10 extra bucks to feel that when I walk into a room rather than the opposite of that. So I'm looking at like some figures here in terms of like what 170 customers looks like at those different values. So what kind of overhead does a gym have? Is like, I got to imagine there's liability insurance that's pretty hefty. And then you've got the lease on those spaces. It's a large space, right?
We're 3,700 square feet of like floor space. That doesn't include the bathroom area and some office spaces. So we're a little under 4, or a little over 4.
All in, okay.
All in, and it's warehouse space, so it's not too bad here. Mm-hmm. But again, that's why if you're in a place like downtown Chicago or Southern California, your gym membership is going to be $300 because they're
heating and cooling.
Their cost of living, they're paying their trainers, more because it's double the cost of living. They're paying, way more for the space.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true.
And then, you can run your gym with part-time coaches, coaching a few classes, trading membership, kind of that, or you can have full-time staff that are paid, well to do not just coach, but be brought into everything else. I've done it both ways. I've had full-time staff. I've had just part-timers and me doing a lot of the work. But when we decided that we were going to have a little Isabella running around, it was kind of like,
this is your daughter. Yeah.
That's my daughter. Yeah. I needed to either scale way back or scale way up and hire some help. And it just so happened I had two awesome people like right there, kind of the timing aligned. And,
right.
and in the time that my wife, Andrea was pregnant, we really, we grew the gym almost double from what it was. Well, not quite double, probably 70% of where it was before when I was running the show and kind of just me and a couple part-time people just coaching classes. We had, far fewer members, but now we have a much more professional operation. I kind of got out of their way, let them do what they're good at.
Right.
And that's enabled me to grow the gym and make the place better and do things that I wanted to do before, but I just didn't have enough time to do it because I was doing everything. So, working on the business instead of in the business all the time. That's not a CrossFit saying. That's an E-Myth.
An E-Myth?
The book, the E-Myth Revisited. That's one of the first books they tell you to read if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that.
The E-Myth? No. I don't remember who the author is. I should. It's probably actually sitting right over there on the bookshelf. But yeah, so I was able to hire some really quality people that showed over and over that they cared, and they were being authentic and they were bought into our brand and what we wanted to do. So it that kind of threw. Well, having kids
changes things a bit. And I always, there was this guy I used to work with, his name was Bob. Bob would tell me about having kids and how he had no time for anything anymore. And I said, that sounds bad, Bob. I think I'm going to do it differently. And Bob was exactly right. You do have no time for anything. The biggest thing that has gone away in terms of time is I can't play video games anymore. And I love video games. It's such a bummer because there's all these popular games. My nephew was over here a few weeks back and he was playing Fortnite for like days on end. And that was like, I would much rather be doing that, but I've got responsibilities now. So
I'm shocked to hear that at least 2 of those 13 monitors don't belong to, what was that video game you
Civilization,
played?
Man.
Civilization, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, I still love that game. They had a Civ 6 come out a couple of years ago. It was phenomenal. And I'm waiting for the next one. So when like a blockbuster game comes out, I'll take a day off work and I'll play that game through the night, and it'll cost me because you still have all your family obligations and everything. But if there's a blockbuster comes out, I'll set some time aside for it. But that happens like once every 4 or 5 years. And it's like Civilization or like you're familiar with like the Elder Scrolls games. We shouldn't be talking about such dorky things on the internet here. People are going to call me out and know my weaknesses. So yeah, I want to shift gears here for a second because working out is one major facet of being in shape and wellness, as the world calls it. But the other half of it, or maybe a third of it, I don't know, you tell me where the line is in terms of diet as opposed to exercise or combined with exercise. So for forever, CrossFit endorsed I shouldn't say forever, I'm not an insider on this, but they endorsed the Paleo diet. And so that is, can you describe that and like what that is and if there's been any changes to it?
Can I spend 2 minutes telling a Lee Corning story?
Yeah, if it doesn't throw me under the bus too hard, because you know more about me than I'm remembering.
Well, it's actually a great segue, and it popped into my mind before you even asked me that question. and I hadn't thought of it, but between like the spending new video game coming out and spending all night, and then segueing into the diet. When we lived together in Jacksonville Beach, I was more of the cook, and you were not. And I'll never forget the time that you handed me $40 because I told you I was going to the Taco Bell across the street. And I don't know if it was like a new civilization that came out, or like you had to trade all weekend long or something.
Right.
But you had packs of DWCPs. For those that don't know, that's Diet Wild Cherry Diet Wild Cherry Pepsi.
That's right.
Room temperature Diet Pepsi Wild Cherry under your desk. And you gave me $40, and you said, "Hey, I want 30 of those chicken and rice burritos, those 89-cent chicken and rice burritos, and you can get whatever you're going to get from Taco Bell with the other $10." And those burritos sat on your desk all weekend, and you ate, I think, all 30 of them while you were playing whatever the game that had just come out. And they didn't even go in the fridge. They were just right there sitting on the desk. And, you know, I'm coming in and out of the room throughout the weekend, and slowly but surely, man, all those burritos will be gone until you must have passed out for a day at a time after that weekend. And I think you might have missed like one or two, but I think you literally ate like 28 of them that weekend. I will never, ever forget that. I don't know why I always think of that. But anyway.
Well, that's embarrassing, man, because that wouldn't have been the only time I've done something like that. But when you're young, it doesn't matter what you eat. It's just fine. Like, it's just fuel for the system. And, whether it was video games or I was working on something, I have no idea or no recollection of it. But now that I'm 32, there is definite need for control in diet, right? So that has changed dramatically. So without getting into too terribly much detail, like I gained some weight after college, or after that time frame in life when your metabolism kind of catches up with you. And what I did to combat it, and I do want to hear about the paleo thing, is I did the keto diet. I did it like really aggressively for like probably 4 months, lost like 20 some pounds, and have kind of just rolled it back a little bit since then and haven't gained any weight back. And so you're not off the keto, the paleo hook, but this is the most searched for term on Google right now. You know that?
Really? Wow. I did not.
Yeah, it's up 600% this year. I was looking at the Google statistics before I hopped on with you, because this diet is like, it seems to be a lifesaver for a lot of people. If your chemistry lines up with how this diet works, and this is just my uneducated perspective, it just seems to work really well. And my experience with things that work really well in a short term is there might be some long-term drawbacks or something like that. Is there anything in terms of the keto stuff that you have a perspective on, or as a CrossFit person that's around physical training all the time and diet all the time? What's your take?
So I have a kind of like a side project with the gym. Is I do one-on-one nutrition coaching.
Okay, did not know that.
And I started with a coach myself about 1.5 years ago, and I learned quite a bit. Things go in cycles. Paleo has been associated with CrossFit for a long time. There's also,
and what is that exactly?
They call it the caveman diet. They call it, a lot of different things, but basically the premise of paleo was that you're eating all natural foods that you would find in the wild, things that are minimally or unprocessed foods, basically. Mm-hmm. But then, as with anything, you have your early adopters that are like hardcore paleo, not even eating sweet potatoes because you can't just eat it right out of the ground. You have to cook it. To now, you have paleo brownies, you have paleo cookies, you have all kinds of things, just because instead of being made with one kind of flour, it's made with almond flour or coconut flour or something like that. And I think the point is being missed there, there with that. Basically, an oversimplification of it might be quality of food. And CrossFit promoted actually kind of two diets. The Paleo is one, the Zone is what they call the other. Dr. Barry Sears wrote a book, I think, called Enter the Zone a long time ago. He's not a CrossFit affiliated person other than they adopted it, but basically that was quantity of food. So CrossFit in the beginning was promoting paleo foods on zone parameters. So based on your size or your, how big you were, your goals, what you're looking to do, you want to eat quality foods and you want to eat about this much of it based on what you're trying to do. That was like the paleo zone thing. Some people did that, had good results with it. Keto, you're saying, is the most searched term. When you go on like a low or no carb diet, it is very scientific. I'm not going to get exactly into that, but basically, your
we
liver,
got time, man.
your liver is going to produce ketones that can be used for energy instead of taking your energy from broken down carbohydrates, glycogen, and things like that. So if you're not providing carbohydrates, it's going to take between 7 and 14 days for your body to kind of realize, okay, it's not going to be coming in. And then in the liver, these ketones are produced and used for energy. A lot of people that switch over to like a keto diet can lose quite a bit of weight pretty quickly. Carbohydrate, referencing hydration or water. For every gram of carbohydrate in the body, it's going to also hold on to 3 to 4 grams of water.
Okay.
So if you're cutting down, carbs out of your diet, either completely or, low carb, which I would consider to be under 100 per day, maybe even under 50 in some cases. Once all the carbs that were in your body are out, you are going to lose a significant amount of weight quickly just in water. That's kind of the water weight that people reference with different things. The more sodium is in the body, you might hold on to water or things like that. But
okay.
Essentially, the macro diet is kind of is what I think the original one was if it fits your macros. IIFYM might be one that some people have heard of, and there's all kinds of.
I've not heard of that. What is that?
Essentially, you can eat whatever you want. That's the tagline, really. You can eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros. So, personally for me, you knew me when I was a much bigger guy. Back when we were living together, I was anywhere from 225, 235. I would get up to 240, 245, down to maybe 220 and up there. I walk around now between 195 and 200. And I eat, it's not the healthiest thing. I eat green, I have green smoothie every day, but I also eat either ice cream or like Cinnamon Toast Crunch every single day. And was able to lose 50 pounds doing this.
So when you say the word macros, it fits your macros. What does that mean?
So macro is short for macronutrients. There's 3 macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fats.
Right.
So the macro diet will prescribe based on your goals or body weight or activity level or something. You need to eat X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, and X amount of fat. And it's kind of overly simplified, but it would be like, it really doesn't matter where the source comes from.
Right.
And again, this is for body composition alteration. This is not for health necessarily. Your food choices are what will make up how healthy or unhealthy the particular diet is. It's just a skeleton parameter. Hey, you can eat 400 carbs, 200 protein, and 80 grams of fat today. If you choose to consume it with mostly vegetables and, brown rice or quinoa or sweet potatoes, that's one thing. If you choose to do it with processed cereal and, butter, or pick something that you don't really think is that healthy, that's how you choose to do it. Again, that's overly simplified, but especially since the body processes different nutrients differently. Like, you're not going to process broccoli the same way that you're processing like a processed cereal. You're going to get nutrients. Everybody absorbs different as well. It's very, very detailed, and it's a lot of variance individual to individual.
Right. So you're bringing up something that I thought affected me with the keto diet so well, because like I have either a very low tolerance or a very high tolerance for sugar. I'm not sure which one it is, but if I eat sugar, it like makes me hyper and then I crash. Or if I eat carbohydrates, especially before bed, and then I wake up, I'm going to feel groggy.
Yep.
Every time. And yep. I haven't spent any time thinking about this. This is just stuff I've noticed. And so when I cut those two things out, I had level energy and woke up feeling pretty good. Was losing weight very fast. And that seemed like a pretty great thing. I didn't know if it was like fat weight or water weight. It's hard to know if you don't, you're not like tracking this stuff. Is there any truth to the fact or the idea that you lose a lot of fat on keto, or is that myth?
Again, I think it's dependent on the individual and what you're doing. That first 7 to 14 days when you're cutting out those carbohydrates, if you say I lost 10 pounds in 14 days on keto, I guarantee most of them is probably going to be, most of it's water from carbohydrate. Maybe you lose some fat too, but you talk to people and there's always external factors and different things. You're telling me you're not working out all that much. Exercise in the body, especially intense exercise, not talking about like taking your dog for a walk or, anything that could be considered like lifestyle fitness. Like, I exercise, I park in the farthest parking spot in the parking lot. That's not what I'm talking about. Right. If you were to go even and do one of your, your Friday night pumps workouts or your, old basketball workouts or CrossFit workout or something else, some kind of decent workout session with, weights or in body weight or intensity, you're going to change the way your body processes foods. So people that I work with, it's individual. If you're on a training regimen, which most people that I see are from my gym,
right?
So they are training pretty hard. Their bodies are gonna usually tolerate carbs pretty well, just due to the intensity of the training and the the intensity of the training and the what they're putting their bodies through. Whereas someone that's not working out and someone that's not training very hard, we're not going to put them on a high carbohydrate diet just because their body doesn't need it to recover and to perform.
Okay. So I need to have the desk jockey diet. Is there such a thing?
I mean, I would say that's a good term for it, the desk jockey diet.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. No, that's actually that's pretty catchy. That could actually, there's something to that.
Well, I mean, I don't need all that energy. And I know we used to talk about supplements and things, and you'd want certain things in the system that would promote muscle growth and quick recovery. I don't need muscle growth or quick recovery. I just need energy to do my thing and some coffee. Yep. And I would love to, obviously get back in the gym. Like if I lived in your city, I would go to the gym just because you were there, and I would tolerate the workout. and that's part of that camaraderie play. But yeah, I'd love to do that, but there are people that are watching this and they don't have time in their, day-to-day lifestyle to get in the gym for so many hours a day, or the time that they do have to get in the gym is like, it's way after hours when, the CrossFit gym is closed or, and I understand CrossFit gyms open like sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning. So maybe they don't have any excuses, but, it's difficult to find that time. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So maybe, what would you prescribe to someone that doesn't necessarily have the time to get in the gym and work it out like you do every day?
So just kind of zooming back out, broad spectrum.
Yeah.
You have, the two ends. You have the people that are super hardcore into it. You have the people that are not into it at all. But what I've found is,
in terms of working out or dieting,
anything really, like exercising or what they're looking to do. Like some people don't care about their diet or exercise at all. Then you have people that are like religious about it and like freaky on it. Just, they're not going to put anything in their body that does this. They're going to do keto for years straight. They're going to be strict paleo. They haven't had a slice of pizza in 2 years. What I try and get across, you know, whichever eating plan that we go with is moderation and trying to find something that fits into your lifestyle. And if it's not going to fit into your lifestyle 2 months from now, unless you have a very, very short-term goal, what's the point really? So like you were able to be very successful with, you know, doing the keto, losing some weight, and then adjusting back to a normal diet. In working with people for the past, you know, 10 years, you're the exception to the rule. Most people come off of something and just run as far as they can in the opposite direction. But what I'm looking for is sustainability. So we want to try and make changes that are going to avoid the 20-pound, 30-pound yo-yo dieting. So if you're gonna, you know, cut out, a few years ago, the 30-day challenges, like the detox challenges, the paleo challenges, or like the no sugar challenges, or the no booze or whatever. Those are very popular. They still kind of are popular a little bit, but
do those work to like cut something out for the 30 days, or does it just promote doing a double when you get back? What
happens on day 31? The entire group gets together and they go and they start drinking, and then they have a pizza, and then they go get ice cream, and they go, you know, on a 3-day bender that really like did more damage to their body than the 30 days did good. And then they're like, yeah, I tried that, but I can't do that for the rest of my life. So what I've found for like the middle, the 80% in the middle, or maybe the 90% in the middle, you know, not your 5 on either side, is small changes that will turn into bigger, more sustainable things. If you're telling me you want to do keto for a long time, you know, but you like to eat carbs and you like a piece of pizza on the weekend, you know, that doesn't gel with your life. So like if you have a life where you're going out to eat and you have friends that have you over for barbecues, and, you know, you guys want to do things and you want to have a drink here and there and do that, you know, is that going to fit in with your lifestyle? And if not, you're probably not going to stick with it. And it's probably just going to be just more wasted time. So the cool thing about the macro diet is that I encourage people, you know, eat as healthy as you can, eat as much healthy food as you can, and then, you know, try and fit enough treats in there that you don't go off the wagon for 7 days and just totally blow it and then quit. Because that's what most people do.
Because that's what gets you in the rough spot. Is there any any truth to the cheat day on a diet? So like I was doing the keto thing for, I said, like 4 months, and now what I'll do is generally keto during the week, and then I'll go to Burger King on Friday. I love Burger King. Burger King and video games are my 2 childhood things I've held on to. But I'll do that once a week, and it hasn't derailed any of the, I guess, plus side that I got from the diet. Is that a real thing, or am I just imagining this?
So, well, not everyone has self-control to let, do you take a whole cheat day, or just a cheat meal?
Cheat meal.
So I was calculating up some of the things I do on my cheat day. Sometimes I hit 5,000 or 6,000 calories pretty easily. And on a normal day, I take in 3,100.
What's a normal person eat? What's an average?
I mean, it depends on male, female goal, but anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500. But these are people that are,
so you eat like 3 times what a normal person eats on a cheat day?
Well, even if you take what I normally eat, if I normally eat 3,100 and then I eat 6,000 on a cheat day, that's double the count. I mean, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
I don't do that every cheat day. So a lot of times it's like just a cheat meal.
Right.
And But kind of what I was telling you, like with the way that the macro diet works, you can eat cereal or ice cream every day if you wanted to, right? If you wanted to, if you weren't concerned with like, if you weren't trying to be super healthy. That's another thing. The first question that we ask someone is, what's your goal here? Because someone who's looking to boost athletic performance as a number one goal, his diet's going to look different than someone who's looking to get ultra lean. And then that diet's going to look different than someone who's going to who's trying to be as healthy as possible. So that's a question to take into consideration too. It's not like a one size fits all. Would I give a competitive CrossFitter a keto diet? No, I wouldn't.
Right.
Would I give a desk jockey a keto diet or a more keto type diet? Yeah, maybe, sure. Fat takes longer to burn off in the system. You can get sustained energy for low intensity activities from it. And you don't need quick energy for high intensity activities because you're really not doing any. So that might work really well for you. Whereas someone who wants to be like on the most healthy side might do kind of like a paleo with a little bit of privileges because they're really, really, really concerned with their food quality.
Right.
So it's really kind of, what is your goal? If your goal is if your goal is strictly performance, okay, what does that mean? What sport are you in? We kind of talked about little sports leading up to this. Like, are you a CrossFit athlete? Are you a basketball player? Are you a sprinter? Are you a power athlete, a strength athlete? Like, what are you trying to do? So really, like, we kind of led this conversation off with individualization for diet. It really is, there's so much that goes into it. Everyone processes nutrients differently, and a lot of it's trial and error with individual people to see, do they tolerate carbs? Do they not? Do they burn fat quickly for energy? Do they not? What works for them, what doesn't work for them, and then what works for your lifestyle too, because not everybody's a pro athlete anymore. You have to make your diet fit in with your life.
Right. So this also opens up another page for me. There's a lot of ways to cheat all of this. And so one of them is, and you're talking about being healthy, there's, the weight loss benefits. I'm talking about like steroids and HGH. And so these have come a long way since we were being told and scared about them years ago. And if you're not in the CrossFit games or signed up to fight Floyd Mayweather, like, this might not be a problem. How do you see the HGH conversation and the testosterone boosting conversation or AKA steroids?
Pre-show, when we were kind of going over kind of the agenda for this, you said, you mentioned, can you just be, maybe if I don't want to put in the work, can I just take steroids and it just be, I can be a beast now? And the answer to that question is no.
Right.
Steroids are, I'm not an expert on this, but basically these things enable you to recover very fast.
Right.
So whereas, yesterday I did a workout that had running and toes to bar, which is like a hanging leg raise, but a little bit different. My abs are killing me right now. My grip was shot today for today's workout because of yesterday's workout. I did some dumbbell bench yesterday. My chest was sore. I did burpees today and I went slower. Maybe if I'm taking steroids or HGH, I get all the benefit from that workout yesterday, but like a couple hours later, I'm recovered.
Right. And
today I can hit today, if I'd have done today's workout yesterday, coming off a rest day, first day of the week, I probably could have done more or faster or better than I did today, which would have been harder. It's not easier. It enables you to perform harder, go longer, push yourself more to the limit. So it's not like you're not going to be taking this and it's going to be easy. It's actually quite the opposite. But if you're in a drug tested sport, that answers a question for you right away.
Right.
You're not really, shouldn't be taking them, but like last year, for example, the first time at the CrossFit games, which is, my area, other people get popped for banned substances and get 4-game suspensions all the time. But the third place finisher on the male side got popped a month after the games they announced it. So they had to strip him of his podium medal and his prize money and give it to fourth place guy, and so it's in every sport.
It is.
But if you're talking more, so it's in every sport. People, you got all this money, people are going to try and cheat to get there. But if you're talking about your casual weekend athlete that goes to the doc and says, hey, doc, I think I got low testosterone, let me get some HGH, or, whatever it is that you would say to get that. Do I agree with it? I don't really. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna tell you to go do it. But if you do have low testosterone, that can help.
Yeah, because one of the things that differentiates you from your 24-year-old self when you could work out for all the hours is that your testosterone levels drop, or your just general energy levels drop. And that's largely attributed to shortages in testosterone. Is that incorrect? So like me at 24 versus me at 34 is a different character.
Oh, correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. And so you would assume that has to do, or not assume, this is what I hear from other folks, is that there's drops in testosterone in that time frame of life. And so if you want to feel like you're 24, like you could hop on some of this kind of stuff and essentially have that same takeaway.
Yes.
I'm not condoning it or saying to do it. I just want to know like what the risks are. Cause obviously I'm sure that you see this stuff, not necessarily in your gym, but maybe you read about it or you have a perspective on it. So
I would say that, again, I'm not an expert on it, but from what I have seen, and read, there's lots of, especially for different kinds of steroids, there's lots of like follow-up that you have to make sure you're doing to flush the on cycle versus the off cycle, and flushing things out of your system, so it doesn't cause any long-term negative health effects.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if done correctly, you can increase your performance with very little risk. A lot of times that involves the help of someone that really knows what they're doing. But if you're just a gym bro trying to keep up with your other gym bros and you don't really know what you're doing, you're ordering stuff off a website that you really don't know about, and you're like, maybe I'm not going to do the exact follow-up protocol like I'm supposed to do, like it says to do, because I just got all the gains and now I'm good. Like,
no, I'm excited. Yeah.
There's some definite negative effects that could come
right
as a result of that. But, doing it under the supervision of someone that knows, what they're doing, whether that be a doctor or someone that works with people like that, or works with those kind of drugs, there's definite performance benefits to it. That's why people do it. I mean, it's, and then as far as like long-term negative side effects, I'm not 100% sure of, any like legit studies on that, but for the most part, taking a little extra, they're prescribing HGH to low testosterone, males in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. I don't see that that's going to be something that super negatively impacts you.
Okay. Yeah. It's just one of those things that's like, it's still cryptic, and it's been like, steroids came on the scene from what I can understand, like late 80s in pretty heavy bouts. But it existed before that. And then there was, steroids it was a much more destructive steroid from what I understand, and it's changed over time. So it's just something I was thinking about. And I don't have the workout conversation like I used to, so I figured I'd ask you. The other thing that I thought was pertinent to this conversation is there are a lot of people online and in print that say that all of the diets are just they're playing with this scale, which is just a caloric intake scale. And so they're saying if you eat 600 calories a day, it doesn't matter where you get them. Essentially, your body is taking in those units of energy. It's working with them however it wants. And if you eat underneath what you consume, if you eat underneath what you expend, you'll lose weight, or you'll run at a deficit essentially. Is that true? What do you think about that perspective?
That premise is the macro diet, with the exception of the macro diet is a certain percentage of your calories come from each of the three macros.
So there's proteins, sugars,
carbs, carbs, and fats.
Okay.
You know, like if we figure out what your daily expenditure is with your resting metabolic rate plus your activity level, and we figure out that's you're burning off 2,500 calories, and your goal is to slowly lose body fat without affecting performance, maybe we start you off at 2,400 calories a day at a ratio of 50% carbs, 25% fat, 25% protein, or you set the protein at a certain level. It really just depends, but there's a really great graphic.
I was going to ask you if there's a website people could learn about this macro thing more about, because I haven't heard it. And obviously keto is the number one search thing.
There's a really great graphic, and basically it says in a column, it lists all the diets. It's like what diet name, keto, paleo, zone, macros, Atkins, whatever it is. And then it says what it is. So keto, you know, very low carb, higher protein and fat, macros, percentages of macros, paleo, quality, zone, quantity, whatever. And then it says how it works. And in the column, it says how it works. Under every single column for every single one of them, it says you burn more than you consume and you'll lose weight. So it's like, this is the name of the diet. This is all the fancy things that it does. How does it work? This is how. You know, if you're doing keto and you're eating 2 pounds of bacon every morning, and then you're eating, butter cooked in your steak and meat cooked in butter and all that, and you're burning 2,500 calories a day and you're consuming 3,000, but following very keto, you know, you're adhering to the keto diet to the T. You're not doing cheating with carbs or anything like that. You're not going to lose weight. You're going to gain weight because you're at a 500 calorie surplus. Same thing with paleo. You're like, all right, I'm going to eat as much quality food as I want. Well, if you're eating 3,000 calories and you're only burning 2,200, you're not going to lose weight. You're surplus here at 800 calories. You're going to gain weight. The other thing too is that the body processes nutrients differently. So if you're taking in 50 grams of carbs from oatmeal, your body might process it and absorb more or less than if you're taking in 50 grams from apples and oranges or from sweet potatoes. So this is why it's not an exact science either. What you consume is not always what your body absorbs. Right. If that makes sense.
So let me give you the layman's term on this, because I realized from my day-to-day diet that my chemistry didn't necessarily work the same as everyone else's. That sugar and carbohydrates affected me in a certain way. And I didn't have a term for it or knew the science. I just kind of knew myself a little bit. So is what you're saying is I just absorb those things different and everyone absorbs them a little different, so the science doesn't work out to a 1-to-1 caloric, or is it 0.9 to 0.1? Yeah. Okay.
You're not going to, well, the fogginess thing, that's a pretty common thing with carbohydrates. A lot of people don't like to eat carbohydrates right before bed because they say it affects their sleep negatively, or foggy is actually a very common word, especially eating carbohydrates late at night. Other people, doesn't affect them negatively at all. They can eat carbs right before bed. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. But as far as absorption rates and whatnot, that's where quality of food might come in. The highly processed and stripped down stuff might not absorb as well, and you're not going to get nutrients out of it. And if you're not getting nutrients, you might have a deficiency. If you have nutrient deficiencies, that could lead to lack of energy or other health problems. That's why, even though like if it fits your macros is a good thing, you still want to be as healthy as possible, because micronutrients are not like calories. Mm-hmm. But they are these vitamins and minerals that affect body processes and how your body processes food and how you absorb food and use it for energy. So if you're at a caloric deficit of a couple hundred calories, but it's all crappy food, you might lose weight, but you might not, and you might not feel very good either doing it. just because of the differences in the body. If lots of different things can happen with nutrient deficiencies. And that's, again, very personal.
Okay. So it sounds like my last question on the back end of all the diet stuff would be, it sounds like the science is, it's not exact, but it's parameterized around the caloric space. And so I guess my next question would be kind of moot, but I'll ask it anyways, which is, are there any new trends in diet that you are looking at and you're thinking, yeah, there's some future to that, or this is a better way to consume calories? We had Tyler Lorenzen on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about Purus, which is the enriched pea proteins. I've got a guy that comes in my office every day, and he drinks exclusively soy drinks, and that's how he keeps track of his caloric intake, and he's got it down to a science. It fits in a spreadsheet nicely, and it's properly managed. Yep. Is there anything like these types of things that you're seeing in the field that you think people could be getting an edge on?
That's a good question. Again, kind of like we talked about a little bit before, you have that very extreme edge. How many people are going to drink exclusively a drink for months at a time and swear off all food? Probably not that many people. People might try it, but is that kind of a thing going to catch on and become mainstream? Probably not. Some people can probably see results from that, but that's not going to be as mainstream of a thing, just because, I just finished up a different nutrition book, certification, and it's a different perspective than what I typically do with the macros. And it's talking about how food is like, it's a cultural thing for a lot of people. It is a family thing for a lot of people. It's comfort for a lot of people. So are people going to adopt crazy things for long-term success? Probably not. But as far as like what is the future, it's usually cyclical. So, at one point,
what's next up in the cycle then?
Right. What's next up in the cycle? So like the macro diet, that's very high carb. It's not low fat, but it's lower fat. Keto right now is, like, as you told me, all the hotness. So that's, going to be protein and fat, no carbs. There's even, I get asked all the time about vegetarian and vegan for athletes. People, I was listening to your podcast with Tyler, as well, talking about like the bad rap that the dairy industry has gotten, boosting other industries. I think that, the cycle, like I said, we're at like the keto is, like you said, the very most popular search thing. So we've got high fat and we've got high protein, low carb. I think it's going to come back around the other way. You'll get back more into carbs, or maybe higher carb. Maybe it's going to be protein source.
Yeah. Well, let me run this by you.
With the purists.
We were talking to Tyler about, the future of calories and how you could essentially feed the world you could solve world hunger if we deployed some methods of growing and distributing food, plant-based. And so he recommended some sort of a meat substitute. And I have seen those in the store. There's these things called the Boca burgers. You ever seen those? They're made out of like beans, I think. Yep. And so I tried that once and I didn't like it. That was years ago. And there's a new thing called the Impossible Burger. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of that, yeah.
And it's a plant-based burger. And the guys in my office went out and grabbed a couple of them the other day and brought them back in. And we tried them, and it's not great, but it was not bad. It was like right in the middle of like what is tolerable for me to eat. And I was thinking, then this is like potentially the next thing, which it would be a hyper sustainable, hyper available calorie source. And yeah, it had bread and it was covered in high fructose corn syrup, which is the ketchup essentially. But like it turned a light on that made me think there's a future to this. Do you see any diets that focus on being plant-based and like kind of faking you into thinking you're getting meats as they have been historically, or does the protein game twist entirely on that hinge in the future?
There's lots of information, on vegetarian, vegan for athletes, especially being able to get enough protein to support muscle growth and things like that. There's a whole list of issues that you could have in deficiencies, amino acids specifically, if you adopt that kind of a diet. I'm not sure what kind of, what is going into those products like the Impossible Burger. Is it super high in soy? Is that good for you to have, especially, is that a good thing for you to have? Is there drawbacks to having too much soy? Mm-hmm. Are you going to have deficiencies in amino acids because of, the vegetarian, vegan? How will they address that if it becomes mainstream? I remember one of the things he said that got me thinking on that particular one was, if we come up with a product that tastes like ground beef and you couldn't tell the difference, but it costs a third of the price, if it's plant-based, are you going to pay triple the price for ground beef or ground whatever it is if we get it right? And to that I would say, if you came up with something that tasted just as good, if not better, with the same texture, and it was plant-based, that might change the way that people maybe view or consume, or maybe become like hybrid consumers, maybe not swearing off animal products completely. But if I can get, some other benefit from this, other nutrients from this product, and also still eat chicken and also still eat steak and also still eat shrimp, but I'm going to incorporate this into my diet and save some money. Maybe that could possibly be the future for Tyler. Hopefully, so.
I asked him if he was selling any shares, or I could get on like a pre-IPO setup, and he said no. So I don't know if I'm behind it anymore. Yes, I think about this in we'll wrap up in a second here. I have my quintessential question to ask you. But I think if diets changed wholesale to a plant-based protein, then it would change entire industries essentially overnight. Because think of how many, like I'm here in Texas, and there are ranches everywhere in Texas, and they're all raising cattle for different cuts and different types of animal products, some for leather, so on and so forth. But if the most expensive part of the animal, the thing that goes and fetches the most money at the open market, decreases in value so much because there's so much less demand overnight, then the cost of raising the animal stays as it was, and that will affect how many of those animals are produced. And then what does that do for the land values? So I'm working around this. So I just think I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the overall shakeout if everyone changed their diet in 2019? What would be the overall economic spinoff? So that's something to think about. So Barry, I got to ask you, if I took your CrossFit business away from you, and I took that looks like Joe Rogan's curtain behind you, and all of the things that you've accumulated, and I dropped you off in, let's say, Omaha, Nebraska, what does Barry Boswell do to pick the pieces back up? They're like, what's your plan of action?
Drop me off in Omaha, Nebraska. Take my gym away from me.
Yeah, I burned it down. Actually,
burned it down.
Yeah, it's not even. You can't return to it, and there's no insurance money. Sorry about that.
No, sorry about that. That insurance policy was no good. Well, I don't know if I should maybe not quote Michael Scott here, but I feel like you're an office guy. If they take my paper company away from me, start another paper company. And if they take that one away from me, I'll start another.
That's one of the names.
Paper company after that. I got no shortage of names.
I love it. Okay. So it would be gym again. No questions asked. Would you do anything differently with the gym? Would you have started in a different way? Would you have done something different in something between the start and now?
The Michael Scott thing was just a joke. I think if I had a chance to start over,
okay.
What I'm doing right now, I love what I'm doing. I love helping people. I love being intense. I love a community feel. Man, I've actually been thinking about this question a little bit more. Like, what if something happened? Like, what would be the next thing to do? I'm not there yet, but if the option on the table was to open another gym, if that option was there, I probably, and had the means to figure out how to do it, I would probably do that. But, you know, I made a lot of mistakes along the way and bumps in the road, and didn't seek out, you know, business coaching or help, you know, for the first 3.5 years, because we were in early adopter phase. So it just kind of happened. It was easy. You know, knowing what I know now, you know, I would be able to start off with more systems in place to be able to help more people, really. If the gym wasn't there, man, I don't know. I think I've always wanted to be a rock star. I don't know.
Yeah, you have you're a country music guy. I could see you putting together a band and touring the Southeast United States.
Man, I might open a small bicycle shop on the beach somewhere. I don't know.
It's not overplayed. That's also from The Office, right? Because Mike's, what's his name? Jim says he's going to open a bike shop somewhere.
Remember, I knew I could count on you, Lee.
Hey, I'm with you. I actually won a game of Office trivia one time when that was a thing.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anything else that is top of mind? I mean, it's a great story. You know, you kind of coming down this track, and congratulations on 6 great years with CrossFit Die Hard. Is there any advice you would give to yourself at the start? Because I love to talk about the starts of different things, and what you mentioned in your if I took everything away from your comment, if I knew what I knew now, like what would you have done from the start that you could pass on to maybe someone else thinking about doing a gym or something parallel to gym? Like you mentioned, the hospitality space. There's some symmetry there.
If I could pass on, you know, a piece of advice or anything like that, I don't know if I would change anything, to be honest with you. Like, when I got started, it was so raw and new and genuine. I think that's what made it what it was. You know, it was just living on passion. We have the systems in place now to like scale and, you know, do all that fun stuff. But, you know, I don't know if I really would change it. You know, I'd be better off with, you know, my processes and things like that. But I really, really enjoyed those first few years, you know, just figuring it out and doing that.
Yeah, there's tons of value to that too. Just like being ready for the ride, because, you know, too much analysis or too much advice slows the track down sometimes.
I saw some last night, just get into it and figure it out. You know, don't you overanalyze it. You sit behind your desk and try and figure out how it's perfect to start. Like, just get started and then make tweaks and changes there. If you just sit on the sidelines, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen for you.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Anytime there's a new diet or some new fitness thing, I'm going to have you on, and you're going to come out to Austin, Texas, and do it in my office here. And we'll hear, so keep us in mind, because whoever's watching this podcast is going to rely on you for diet and exercise advice going forward. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right, my man. Appreciate you big time. Talk soon.